This is my Realtor series. It's starting that because literally you guys are exactly one of the demographics that I want to help and affect and work with in this coming year, and how everything is different. So this is all about how you can, the best ways to maximize those profits and growth and really goodwill. Because again, I love helping people out in this world, and so I'm going to naturally attract other people that like to help out people in this world. And that way it just makes things easy and fun and everything's great. So just a little bit about me, some of my Instagram, Facebook, all that fun stuff that we have going on. So I've been an investor for over a decade now. It's been fun and it's been an interesting journey. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 8 years old. I had a tax number and a DBA. Bodacious bangles was what it was, kind of like slap bracelets, but it's like, I grew up in a family that didn't have a lot of money. And so what we didn't have in money, we had tons of love and they were very supportive of me. And that's not to say that I didn't go through traumas or anything in my life. I had tons of them. And so like, it's working through those. But one of the things I learned when I wanted to get a Nintendo and my parents said, oh, you couldn't get a Nintendo. We don't have the money for that. I'm asking why. And in the back of the seat, I'm like, well, what if I got the money for it? They're like, okay, if you get the money for it, you can buy it. So problem solved. I became an entrepreneur and I was just always doing things my whole life. I'm a lifelong learner. Unfortunately, I just read the book about a year ago, Who Not How. So I was always trying to learn how to do everything. So I've got degrees in computers when I was 15 years old, and then an optical engineering degree. And then I went back to school for a bachelor's of architecture, a master's of architecture, and an MBA. I'm a glutton for punishment, essentially. But it's all of that. No one gets to see my resume, but using all of those things, I can have some x-ray vision into houses, I can understand finances, I can organize businesses, computers and tech isn't an issue for me. And it's just lots of fun. I'm a buy and hold owner. That's what I like to do. I want wealth for myself and my family and my future's family's family because I didn't have that. So that's one of the benefits that I'm looking to do. I have wholesaled. When I started out, one property, I got all the way up to 94 properties at once in one transaction. And you guys would like to probably hear this, since you might hear like wholesalers are a 4-letter word. That biggest deal, I had 2 realtors that I worked with. So there is possibilities in all of that, and they got their full commissions, and everyone was every single party was super happy at the end of the day. I've renovated 87 plus properties. I can do everything from electrical to plumbing, HVAC, everything. I hate drywall, so I don't touch it. I pretend like it's toxic to me so that I don't even have to lift it. Just learn to say no on what you like to do. But yeah, lots of experience, single family homes, multifamily homes, notes, making them, selling them, everything with them, a bunch of rent to own. Again, helping people out, finding different ways that I can help people out. But what I'm really, really good at is creative finance. I love creative finance and mindset stuff, everything associated with that, because we can get over things that are in our life with mindset. And then raising private capital, that's one of the masterminds that I'm in, is one nationwide specifically for elite capital raisers, because it's so important to raise money for what you're doing. Otherwise, you're gonna have a ceiling above you. So many people try to use their own money, and then they can get one property, and then they save up another couple years to get another property. By the end of their life, they might have 5 or 10 properties. And does that really meet your goals? To me, it didn't, So I got to the point where I was analyzing big portfolios and multifamily properties, and very quickly I realized I needed lots of money. And the worst time to ask for it is right when you need it, because they can tell that right in you. You have to onboard these people. So I went back to the drawing board and figured, all right, let me pay 10 grand to be a part of something, to really learn and be surrounded by people where raising private money is normal to them. Swinging a hammer might be completely foreign, but they can just raise millions and millions and millions of dollars. So, okay, let me learn from those people. And then I got engaged to an energy healer here in Miami there at the bottom in just a few months ago. So that's fun, and we're on our path. So, and the fun thing about all of this is I started it all with no money and destroyed credit. So wherever y'all are at, you're probably better than me. at the end of the day from where I started. And the reason my credit was so destroyed is it's right when I came to Ohio. I went back to school for architecture, and I was married at the time. So, but I put her through med school, and then things fell apart. You can imagine they didn't have a lot of time. I didn't have a lot of time going to architecture school. It was the least amount of sleep I ever got in my life. Don't do it. But the thing is, I'm so thankful to her. I'm so loving of her for all of that to happen, because if I didn't have destroyed credit, I wouldn't have learned all these fun things that I'm going to teach you right now. And so it would have been entirely different for everything to do, because I took on all her debt and everything, because she had really high interest rates and I was very studious with my interest. So everything was at 0 and 1% at the time. But it was a whole shift. And that's actually how I learned to start running too. I became a runner because I got a divorce. I ran a marathon from 2 miles to a full marathon in 4 months. And it was like the best active meditation I've ever found. And so literally I use that every day to just go and jog and get out of your conscious state and get into your subconscious, like your alpha and your theta state, so that I can reprogram my brain. Fun stuff. Okay, so anyway, that's about me, but you guys probably know that the market has shifted, right? And my question is, have you guys? So you asked for what I look for in realtors. Funny, I want to tell you. So, professional, intelligent, super important to me. Up to speed with what's going on in the market. Those trends, those tactics, everything with that. Ideally, you're established. You have a network of other people. If you have assistants, that's even better, because you can work faster and you're more specialized in what you do. When we need you, you're very available. I might not be available, but I want you to be available. Likable, trustworthy, dependable. You can imagine those are so wonderful things. But going after a deal with ferocious tenacity, right? But just go after it. Let's go get these things, right? So that's what makes great realtors. Wise in their time and with what they do, and just we can move quickly. I'm able to move quickly. These creative ways of buying, they can move very quickly. That's one of the benefits of everything. So that's what I look for. And then I try to make y'all love me. What do? I want to understand exactly how you operate at the end of the day. What's important to you, what your requirements are, what your timeline, all the little paperwork. I want to go over everything in advance so that when we have a deal, we can move super quickly. That's real important to everyone involved, right? Communicating exactly what our goals are, so you know exactly where my thoughts are. That helps you guys out a lot. All the questions, right? I like to have great communications. I'm an awesome communicator, one of my affirmations, but always striving to be better. Always trying to communicate in everything that I do. But just, what are the different contingencies that I like? What's the timeline? I usually set these things up so that it's templated, so that you guys can just push things out and make it easy. Since I was a realtor, I understand what realtors go through. I don't want you to have a hassle working with an investor. If that's your belief, change your belief. It doesn't have to be that way, right? Find the people that know how to work with you, or train them. That's the other one. So it's all efficiency. Now, I don't want to waste anyone's time with BS offers or just, let's see if this thing floats. That's not how I operate. I'm very intentional, but I also like to be very efficient in everything that I do. And just giving you precisely what you want. So you tell me what you want, I'll give you exactly what you want. All right? It doesn't have to be that complicated at the end of the day, but I just don't want to waste your time in anything that's going on. I value that a lot. So let's close quickly, and let's do it again and again and again. Things I love. Okay, so I imagine you guys have had a little bit of an update, what's going on in the market from a realtor type of perspective. I don't know what that necessarily looks like, because I'm not in the realtor field right now, but I can tell you from my side of it what I see, and so you can compare it for you guys at the end of the day. Obviously, these interest rates, they're rising faster than ever and ever and ever, right? Super pain in the butt. And they're not going to ease those rates in 2023. My prediction, they are going to go up and they're going to hold fast and they're not going to start to slowly come down until 2024. And it's going to be slow. And it just happens to be an election year. I don't think that's a coincidence, right? But that is exactly what I would expect, and that's what we're underwriting for. So affordability, you guys understand this one for sure. Decreasing, but it's across the board. Absolutely everybody can afford less because there's financing that's involved. We're always using other people's money. So it's changing. You know, the owner-occupant market, it's drying up because people aren't moving because they can't afford. The people that are moving are people that are typically having to move or really, really want to and have the ability to. So it's just changing those aspects. Investors, we're getting tighter. I don't know if you deal with anyone who's giving offers out there, but if they haven't already, they're going to be coming down. They need to be coming down because the price of things are going up. So it's just the nature of it. Institutional buyers, holy smokes, their criteria, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but they were buying at market prices. They were paying exactly what was listing. Me as a wholesaler, and I didn't even wholesale in these last few years, but new wholesalers coming in, looking at it through a wholesaler's eyes, they could get a property off the MLS and they could flip it to an institutional buyer and they're making tons of money. So all those wholesalers, they're having a problem now because they had it so easy in these last couple of years, right? There's people like Jamal Ganji, or Astro Flipping is basically his thing. If you guys haven't heard of that, it's like making little bits of money by just putting things under contract on the MLS and then selling it to somebody else, just getting it a little cheaper because everyone was buying. So there were so many buyers and all you had to do is get things a little bit cheaper and you could make decent money on it. And institutional buyers were literally buying at 100% because the interest rates like 2%, 3% in those range. So they know that it's the one time in a decade that that's going to happen. And so it's a big grab. They were trying to buy a third of all property, single family homes in the United States. That was their goal. They didn't get there because the Fed increased everything. They got a fifth of them. Can you believe 1 in 5 houses is owned by a corporation? So it's just making it harder and harder for a homeowner to actually buy the home. But their criteria, it's tightening up. For a while, they just stopped. They said, whoa, we just want to pause and reset till we have a good idea of what the Fed is going to do. And you never know exactly, but you have an idea of what's going to happen. And so they've opened it up in certain markets and they have certain criteria, but it's very strict. Certain ages of houses, certain type of building typographies, certain type of construction. Everything is very specific, but they are buying again. So that's what to watch out for. I'm sure you guys have seen this, days on market. Yeah, it's not the same as everyone's just rushing to go and, let's put all these offers in and you know that you're gonna put it on the market. One day later, you're like, okay, highest and best everybody. And you guys look like rock stars in the last couple years. And unfortunately, it's different how you need to be rock stars. I would say unfortunately, just because easy is nice, but here I am, so I'm gonna make it easy for you guys, right? Inventory is increasing, but it's not super problematic right now. It's not like there's so much inventory that everything is pushing down. There's not that many houses that are on the market. So that's why it's slowly coming up because the days on market are going up, but it's not that it's like this big gluttonous oversupply. So that's what's different than what was happening in the last time everything crashed and there was some recession. All right, so due to all those shifts, right? Properties, they're selling slower. Realtors, I imagine you're making less commissions. You're making the same commissions. I don't know, you're probably making less commissions, right? Wholesalers are definitely making less money. The new ones don't have a darn clue how to do anything. And a bad wholesaler is exponentially worse than a bad realtor at the end of the day. I get that, right? So they need to have like 10 of these types of educations in order to get them to where you're going to be by the end of this. I can say that because I can pick on my industry, right? But sellers, they're waiting longer for an offer. Some sellers, that's a problem for them. All of them, they're just starting to sweat more, and nobody likes anxiety. Investors, the savvy ones, they're shifting their tactics. If they haven't, they will. The people around here that are doing BRRRRs, I advise them to be careful because you don't have that same buying market. So you have to buy it cheaper. There's people the reason I got out of buying one a week 4 years ago is because everyone started to overpay. Like I was paying 60% all in, and then people would eventually bid over me. I'm like, well, I don't know what the heck you're doing. And then I'd talk to them, they'd say, oh yeah, no, our number is 70%. So our margins are just thinner because people were getting more competitive when they were putting in their offers to buy it because there were so many buyers, right? But then those investors would push up to 75, and they're just because they have to feed their construction machine. They have to pay all of those contractors at the end of the day, so they got to keep that going. So it's this problem for those BRRRR type of investors. And so I am an investor that likes to buy it and hold it. So I'll fix it up if needs be. I don't mind buying a house that doesn't need any work on it, and then just refinance it and then put it into my portfolio and manage it. But I can't refinance it at the same rates anymore. So yeah, here in Ohio, we can cash flow a lot better than the coastal states, but people in Florida, people in Texas, people in North Carolina, South Carolina, Phoenix, they're having an issue right now. They're having a much bigger issue. So investors move away from there and they move towards the cash flow states, which is lovely Ohio. In fact, it's funny, I went to OREA back in November, and that's our Ohio Real Estate Investors Association meeting. It's the biggest investor association meeting in the country. And so really fun, super cheap, tons of great value that you get from it. You meet other investors across the country. I met this investor from California who was specifically looking, happenstance, just happened to have him sit down at the table that I was at because I was talking to some people and I attracted him some way. Happenstance brought him there. He was looking for someone that knew Akron.
Wow.
Holy smokes. And so now we're best friends. He came to our house and I have an axe range in the back and we throw axes. He's like, this is the best darn thing. I would be out here forever. But a good friend where, he has access to a different market. I have access to a different market for him. He can't buy there. Holy smokes, for so many reasons. But he loves buying here. And I'm just teaching him what not to buy. For some reason, someone told him to buy like low B- and C-. He got excited about C- type of properties and neighborhoods. I'm like, what? Are you a glutton for punishment? Do you just want your whole life to be about managing your stress? And I'm like, why would you do that? No wonder you're having issues with contractors and tenants and all of those things. So he thanked me for that, and he's shifting his strategy. So, but everyone is shifting. You always have to shift, right? But all buyers, we're all getting more selective. Our prices, they're going down for cash prices and things like that. You know that. Price reductions, I see them. I'm sure you guys look more. For instance, my criteria right now, I wouldn't make an offer with something on the market unless they were open to seller financing that isn't 60 but 90, like a soft 60 but 90 or more days on market. And then I can start. I just don't want to waste time with people who really are trying to put it out there and they haven't had that shift yet that this is what's here. Let them try. And then that might open their mind up to the possibility of making more money with a savvy investor. Okay, so lots of people are hurting, right? But you educated realtors can help them. And I love helping. So that's what I'd love to give you guys. So how can realtors pivot to help? I like shifting questions whenever I feel that there's something that I'm really trying to achieve. Even when I'm in a depressed time in my life, like I'm worried about finances, I'm like, I'm not gonna be like, so COVID, for instance, COVID hit, and I say, all right, how am I going to pay all the rent when the renters aren't paying? I've got to pay my debt. And I'm worried about cash flow, and one of the tricks that I use, instead of saying how or can I, it's how many ways can I? Trick your frickin' mind. Because when you ask how many ways to yourself, there is no no. There is no I can't do that. Literally, the verbiage of it is you have to come up with minimum two ways. And so I've used it so many times in anything that I want to do. Just changing the question, you get a different result at the end of the day. You know, can we do this together? How many ways can we do this together? When I go out and I network with people, I literally just want to find kind-hearted, loving people in this world, because at that point, it's not can or can't we work together, it's how many ways can we work together. One of the things I learned from partnering with the wrong people, right? But anyway, so learning new tactics. You need to be open to the change, fully understanding those driving factors behind the real estate trends that I was just mentioning earlier. Learning creative finance. Have you guys been exposed to that? Does that something that doesn't?
Anything about creative finance?
No, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Do you know anything about creative finance? Okay, that's okay. No. How about you?
What is creative
For
finance?
real estate, yeah, back in the day, there was things that they would do that they haven't done for years.
Interesting. So
Those might be
And
coming back
membership into
around.
sales?
yeah, so interesting. So because I started out with no money and no credit as my resources, I had to come up with all the different creative ways of doing it. And because it was in 2012, the market had crashed and it was just coming back up. Lo and behold, it was perfect happenstance for everything to fall the way that it did. And creative finance was really awesome. So yeah, I love assuming that a realtor knows it first and then just letting them correct me if they don't. And because I don't want to be pushy with education on stuff, right? I want you guys to feel confident in your role as a realtor in general when I'm talking to new realtors on the phone about it. But yeah, learn it. There's so many fun things in creative finance. And if you guys all want to own property at the end of the day, that's the way to do it faster. So once you learn that, educate everyone. Your sellers, your realtors, your buyers, your investors, your private money lenders, your mom, your dad, your teacher, your everyone at church, your everyone around you. The more you can, the more you will fully understand and embody the benefits of that. And then you can explain those to somebody else who truly needs it in those situations and identify those people that truly can benefit from it. And that's the next thing. Identify those sellers who can benefit from it the most, and then learn to craft those new options to buy and sell with the knowledge, the empathy, I would implore you, and just the whole understanding of everything surrounding it. Super fun. All right, so 2023 superstar is gonna be creative financing. I am telling you, all these people that are talking about the greatest transfer of wealth that's gonna happen this year in the next 18 months, it's because they know what they're doing. They know that we have to do something different than we've done before. We can't lean on the banks right now because the prices are too high. Things don't cash flow. The risk versus the reward just doesn't make sense for lots of investors, for institutional investors, you know? So why would I be any better than a big old institution that's got all this research behind it that understands things? So giving you some options about creative financing. So this is like, what is creative financing? One of them is that we can purchase properties subject to. You might hear this. Sub 2 is a group that I am in. It's a mastermind. They're all about creative finance with Pace Morby. I will tell you that it's the best darn community in the world for this because it's all about love and giving first and teaching and helping, and anyone who doesn't hold to those ethics is basically booted. Doesn't matter that you've paid for a lifetime membership to it, you are out because we have a no tolerance for any of those types of things. And that's something I've been looking for forever around here. I wanted to create because I had those We Buy Houses guys that would come around to our areas, and I never really felt good about them. Like, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about them. It just was, it 100% was not me. I could just tell it. I could feel it. I just didn't want anything to do with it. So I found this group, and it's all about doing wonderful things in the world and helping everyone, just understanding this elusive thing called creative financing, which is vastly broad and deep. So, but when they say subject to, we're gonna purchase a property. One of the ways we can do it is subject to the existing taxes, meaning we're going to purchase this and we're going to take over these existing taxes. We don't mind that they're still there. I'll leave them at the county. There's wonderful programs at the county. For instance, if you guys don't know this, One of the last homes that I purchased for renovation, I paid $2,500. $500 was to a wholesaler, $2,000 was to the seller. That's what they had negotiated. The wholesaler was going to try and make 12, 15 grand or something on it. I only just agreed to a purchase price. But when I got into it more, I found out that not only were there delinquent taxes at the county, but there were also delinquent taxes that had been sold off as a lien from 3 years before all that. So they didn't realize that there was one of them. So I stayed to my true purchase price because I don't want to hurt a wholesaler. It's like, hey, whatever you got it for, I'm good. This is what I can buy it for. That's fine. But once I uncovered it, I'm like, hey, my price isn't going to change. So you can either make some money and we can do business in the future. You can learn from your mistake, or not. And the seller, he was going to just let this whole property just go because no one had lived there in 5 years, and it's just the taxes, big deal. What's going to happen? He said, I don't care. Yep, I want 2 grand, and then that's it. I'm done. Right? But that was a wonderful time where I could take it over to all those existing taxes that were in place. The county, they have this fun program where if you put 10% down on the balance of taxes that are owed, you can spread out the rest of the taxes over 60 months, 5 years, at 0%. So you literally get 0% financing from the government. And it's just out there. It's not something you have to apply for. Well, I mean, I guess you do, but there's no hurdle. It's just you have to ask. And they send you the form. They say, okay, sure. You pay them the 10%. You get 0% financing. What a fun thing that is, right? From the government. So purchasing subject to, another thing you can purchase subject to is the existing mortgage in place. A lot of times we will keep the existing mortgage in place for a litany of reasons, but sellers don't realize what an asset their existing mortgage is. And that's how I explain it to them. Because literally, they're going to have a lot of times an interest rate from 2, 3 years ago, 6 months ago, whatever. It's at 2%, 3%, 4%, anything that we can not get right now. So it's like having a time machine. If I can go and get their financing from back then, it's a way that I can overpay for the property. So it's a little silly, but I'm always looking for ways that I can overpay. Because if I can overpay, then I'm different from all those other jabronis that are just asking for 60 cents on the dollar, 50 cents on the dollar. That's their game, and that's fine, and it's a numbers game. Someone might say yes, but I would rather teach them how to empathize and just listen to the seller's needs first. If they want fast cash and they're okay with that, fine, I'll do that. If they want more for all the different benefits that I'll go through, cool. I don't mind overpaying because I understand the time value of money and I'm in it for the long run. I'm not here for a quick buck. So that's purchasing everything subject to. So that's if they have mortgages or taxes in place, we can assume those. We can take those over, make those payments for them. The other thing is if they don't have any mortgage in place, you can do seller financing. So they can be the bank. So that could include something like if they have a home that is free and clear, or even if there's an existing mortgage in place, we can pair it with that. Because you can imagine in the last couple of years, everything shot up in value about twice what it was 5 years ago. Everything is just more, across the country. And so everybody has equity, right? Most people have equity, a lot of them. And so what I like to do is just take over their mortgage, look at ways and the benefits of taking over their mortgage, as well as paying them their equity over time. And if I can explain to them what's going on with the Fed and how the interest rates are going up and how eventually they will go down, that if they just help me ride out that wave till I can refinance it, I can overpay. And that's all I'm looking to do. I'm just looking to ride out the wave at the end of the day. If they can understand that and they can work for their specific situation, then it's a slam dunk deal. So that can be really, really fun. Another option is even a seller carryback. We've done these before where you can imagine we need 80%, we can get financing from an institution in general for 80% or 75% of the LTV, the loan to value. That might be our hurdle. So we need to come to the table with 20% or 25% to traditionally, conventionally buy a property, right? One of the ways that we can do that is we pay them everything, the 100% on that. They get all of that. We get our financing that's at 75% or 80%, and then they lend us back the money that we used, the 20 or 25%, and we pay them that over time. And so it's a way that we have no money down in the deal, so we can buy however many we want. You can buy however many you want, right? And they're also getting lots of benefits from it, but they're also clearing up their mortgage. They're also getting interest on their money that they're giving me at that time. But it's just a way. All of these ways are ways that we can move very quickly, very easily, and it's just finding the right people in the right situations that work for this. And most of the time, it's just educating them and empathizing with them and just understanding their goals. And you'd be like, well, it works for a lot of them. The fun thing is, with all of this, is it works for every single type of real estate there is. Single family homes, multifamily homes, mobile home parks, anything. Shoot, you can buy creative finance, you can use creative finance for a car. You can buy it from someone else. The title can transfer, the mortgage could even stay in their name, or you could pay them over time, right? For a car. Same thing. And if I can then sell that to somebody else, where it's a construction worker who doesn't have good credit and he's looking to get a car, he needs a truck to work, you can imagine he's willing to pay more for that truck and pay monthly payments. He might not have a down payment for it because he's got to work. Hey man, I don't have no money. That's the problem. I don't have no credit. That's the problem, right? Any of these situations just have to be matched with the right type of end buyer. I might be the end buyer, you might be the end buyer. A rent-to-own person who has bad credit might be the end buyer. Matches very well with creative finance on the front end. I've done a ton of those types of transactions. Another thing that people will talk about is master leasing, and this is basically the idea that I'm going to get a lease with you, the seller, with an option to buy, and then I'm going to lease it to somebody else, and potentially with a different option to buy. If I was doing a rent-to-own agreement, I don't have to give them an option, but it's a way that the title would stay in the seller's name, and I can pay them money every month, and maybe that helps them to pay their mortgage if that's what they want to do with it, and they don't want to transfer title for whatever reason. Usually it's an educational gap. But if they don't want to do that, or if they own it free and clear and they just want to lease, or if I want to be, I just want to try out this market. I don't necessarily want to own that house right now. I just want to lease it at a rate that I know that I can lease it to someone else at a higher rate. And so I'm doing a sandwich option, sandwich lease at that point. I'm making the difference with arbitrage. That could be a good option for this market that's going down. And it's always a fun option. Another one, have you guys ever, I think your normal contract includes something like this where, maybe it's not your normal contract, but at least where I might take title to the property in one day and the seller doesn't want to move yet. They can't move. So you deal with that by just you post-closing renting it back at a certain type of thing. I call it whatever, seller rent back. But yeah, so that's entirely possible too. But that's all along this realm of creative thinking and creative financing and creative, just everything, doing things a little differently. Joint venturing, this is an interesting one that you can do with the seller where, say they just really drag their feet, they do not want to sell it to you at this lower price, it needs work done to it. We could joint venture on that to the seller and say, okay, I'm going to give you this agreed upon price when I fix it up and then I go sell it on the open market. So title would stay in your name at that point and we're joint venturing, we've got this agreement, and so you can imagine there's a little bit of risk reward with that, or it's a fixed price. There's a lot of different ways of doing that, but it's just, I want to get you guys to start thinking that there's so many other ways out there. I like to make the analogy about ice cream. So usually everyone likes ice cream when it's not snow on the ground, freezing cold.
It's still good.
I just came back from Florida, and I remember being on the beach and just, man, I had a little bit of sunburn from the day, and I was just craving some ice cream or something like that. A pina colada worked, and so that solved it. But, ice cream, I like to describe a typical transaction where you've got a normal seller and you've got a normal buyer, like the masses moving into the house. The owner-occupant is vanilla ice cream. Your transactions are super vanilla. There's nothing crazy. If there's anything that's crazy in there, like even like a bean fleck, like vanilla bean fleck, right? That's crazy. Like we don't want to see anything. We want it to be clean transaction. That's a normal transaction. I like to say that all the creative financing is the fact that there's every other freaking flavor of ice cream that's out there. And every person has a favorite ice cream. So think of it as every seller, and even every buyer, but every seller needs a specific type of ice cream. If they were to eat vanilla ice cream, it would hurt them in some situations. They could be allergic to it, right, in that analogy. But you need to find and ask them. Just ask them questions so you can find what type of ice cream is best suited for their situation. That's creative financing. It's literally every other flavor, and there's like 1,000 different flavors, right? So I just want to expose you to these types of terms so that when you see them out in the world, they exist, and I can answer questions about all of those. But here are some of the benefits. So for those sellers, at the end of the day, we can give you the highest price. Like I was saying, if you can work with us on how we're creatively buying, we will always be the highest price. Not sometimes, always. Always be the highest price. They can save on the taxes. So taxable event is when they sell their house, they get this big chunk of money. IRS says you got to give us a chunk of that, unless there are different clauses of them moving into this and that. But especially if it's something where it's not their primary residence, they're going to get hit by all of that, right? If you can spread that out over time, then it spreads out over multiple tax years. So it doesn't increase your ratio of where you're at, your bottom line of how much you're making, doesn't push you into a different tax bracket. So you can actually net more money on top of the fact that you're making more by the sale of it. You can actually keep more of it from the government. That's a good thing. So I was just talking to a seller in Florida. He has a tree house. It was a former NFL player, is what it said in the MLS listing. So it was a tree house, and it was on 50 acres, and it was his hunting lodge. They have hogs, they have turkeys, whatever. I don't know. I see lots of acreage, and I see possibilities with everything that's going on. He wanted 1.25 million. I have no clue what rent would be in the area, right? No idea. But I just know acreage and everything, and someone that has lots of money, former NFL person, he's got different problems than the normal people. So I thought it was going to be an easy slam dunk. And actually one of my realtor friends brought it to me and said, hey, this one seems like it's a good one from everything I've heard. Can you call this person? They're not really talking to me. Sometimes realtors don't talk to realtors or don't like to listen to some of the things. I don't know. She was very friendly to me on the phone. I was on the beach before my pina colada, and I just wanted to talk to her, and I was asking her about, hey, what's going on with this? Tell me all the details. I was like, oh, so I assume you know about creative finance. She said yes. I'm like, great. So what have you talked about with your client? It's like, well, we would be willing to do it. We just want a substantial amount down. I said, oh, okay. What is substantial, right? And she said 25%. I said, oh, okay. So I'm buying right now with 0 to 10% down. When we put 0% down, that's the way that we can pay the most amount of money. And if you want all cash, that's the way we can pay you the least amount of money. And everything else down is just, less that we can pay you. But 0 down is the most amount of money. And then I go through the benefits of all of those things. And I say that, what is this person going to do with their money at the end of the day? They're going to get this $1 million or $250,000 down payment. What are they going to do with that money? And what are they going to do with the taxes on it? But where are they going to invest their money in this market right now, where the stock market is like a little crazy, and everything that I read is saying it's got room to go down here in this next quarter. If you invest in NFTs or Bitcoin, good for you. That's not my cup of tea. I don't go gamble. I've never been to Vegas. I have no desire to gamble. I will sit right next to my friends when they go and gamble. They get blackjack. They give me that little extra money that they get, and I get my free drinks, and I just watch them. It's like just a TV show for me, but I do not gamble, right? I don't like that. Taxes, everything that's in the stock market right now is a little bit of a gamble unless you're really into all that. And it's volatile. It's just different than real estate, which tracks with inflation. Funny thing. It makes it very safe in that regard. So she understood everything that I was putting down. This guy has plenty of money. And she said, yeah, he's got that problem. Yeah, I don't know where he would put the money. We've talked about that. I'm like, okay, well then would it be all right if I sent you an LOI for, some options with 0, 10% down just to show, oh yeah, that'd be great. I think you would be down for that. So it's one of the things I have to do later tonight is do that. And who knows? And so I haven't looked at what the rent would be or even done a pro forma of what it would pan out to be. I just know that if I buy it creatively with no money down, I have a million options of what I can do, right? It's no problem. I don't mind overpaying. But the fun thing about this is we can go through and buy these quickly. For the sellers, quick sale. We don't have to worry about all the headaches that typically you would get with a traditional owner-occupant type of buyer. There's no appraisals that are required. There's no inspections that are required because there's no financing that we're putting in place. There's no institution regulating that saying you must have this inspection. You must have an FHA inspection on top of your other inspection. Give me a break. And then it just creates issues for people, right? We can avoid repairs. We can handle those a million different ways, right? But obviously nobody ever wants to do that. So it increases the probability that this is going to close because there's less roadblocks in your way. And they can charge me interest on the money. Great, that's fine. I was gonna pay some interest anyway. There's lots of ways that I can pay that interest. And to me, I would say it's the best place to put their money at the end of the day. It's in an asset that is real, it's tangible. It's not some widget company where if China sneezes, something is gonna happen and the stock's gonna go down. Like it's nothing like that, and it tracks with inflation. And it's an asset that they already are super comfortable with. They know it, they've owned it. They get it. They don't have to be like, let me look inside the bathroom to make sure that they know what it is, right? Super easy. They can sell on their timeline. Sure, we're not gonna move in there. You wanna keep living there? I don't care. We can craft something that works well for you, until you get a new house, all right. Until this certain date because of whatever, all right. Until whenever you don't know, okay. I just want to handle the mortgage that's in place. I just want someone to pay those things. Okay, there's so many different things. So those are the ones, those are really great for the seller at the end of the day, understanding some of those. And I can even give you these slides, you guys, if you want.
That'd be awesome.
Because I like that you're writing. I'm a very kinesthetic learner, and visual and kinesthetic too. Audio is my worst. I'm getting better. Affirmation. But no, at the end of the day, yeah, I'll give you all these guys because I want you guys to succeed. I want you guys to teach other people that. Like in my mind, there's many investors that are out there that will, oh my God, like skip trace, run lists, cold call, cold text. It gives me the heebie-jeebies. I hate those. I don't do that. I wouldn't want those things, so I don't even wish that on my VAs. I don't want someone else to do that. It's shitty, right? And it makes you feel bad when all these people say no. Like, besides everything else, right? It doesn't feel right to me. What I would rather find these golden eggs is by teaching people geese, making them golden geese. And so you guys can just hand me those deals, hand me those eggs, look over my shoulder, say, ooh, what are you doing on this one? Like, yeah, okay. Knowing that you might not be my golden goose forever and that you might want to just own them yourself at the end of the day, but that's cool. Because I just want to help you guys and help you guys help other people so that we can all do this whole thing together. It's a very, it's the notion of, like if you have got a pie and ice cream, I guess, but if you got pie, Everyone's always trying to, like, especially wholesalers, maybe they're trying to get their wedge of the pie. I say, screw that, guys. Go fight over some scraps. I'm gonna go build a pie factory over here. And then we're gonna have pies for days. I'll feed all y'all with tons of pies. I'll build another pie factory if you really get hungry, right? It's just changing your mindset to an abundant mindset versus a scarcity mindset. So that's exactly what we're doing here. So anyway, so the benefits for you guys, of course, you get the highest price for your seller. Wow, you're pretty darn good again, right? You can get fast commissions because, again, it's the speed of the sale. We don't have those hurdles to work through. Oh, and by the way, yeah, we paid you. I don't know, I don't know that I put that anywhere. Well, I guess this is someplace where I put it, but yeah, it's not like real estate investors are trying to not pay realtors. The absolute opposite. In fact, there's a bunch of ways that we could pay realtors. You know, whether it's just a normal type of commission or if your brokerage allows you to get money over time, well, shoot, there's even more possibilities there, right? You could imagine that, and then you're getting passive income from something. Maybe that's the way that I could overpay on a commission and pay you more than typically. Interesting. So just thinking differently is what I'm trying to get you guys to do. But yeah, speed of the sale, no inspections, no appraisals. I'm not qualifying, so there's none of those hurdles that you would typically have with some of those things. So it increases that probability to close, and then guess what? When you're getting the highest price for people, don't you think they're probably going to tell some other people about that? Yeah, I bet they would. I sure would. And I sure would like to hear about that. And I would tell you that, you know, specifically, I love looking for property owners. You know, instead of just an owner-occupant, someone who's a landlord that's trying to get out of it for whatever reason, and they want to get out of it. They're a great example of someone who understands taxes, who understands time value of money, who understands everything associated with a property. I love talking to those. Man, if you guys come across someone that has 100 properties, a lot of people don't know what to do with that. I tell wholesalers, bring those to me every day. I'll get you paid. Don't you worry. And you're gonna be probably blowing your mind at the Excel sheet that I have to analyze all of that, because I was an engineer and that's not too intimidating to me. But Monique looked at it last night because I was educating someone, paid me one-on-one to teach them about to get my calculator and to analyze their multifamily deal of a portfolio. And yeah, I started to go through and I was like, wait, are you guys scared of Excel? Like, how do you feel about Excel? And they're like, oh no, we really, really love it. I'm like, okay. Because it's like scroll this way and it's scroll this way. And there's 13 tabs. And I think I only went through one of the tabs on this thing. But it's all like automated, refer this so that I can move quickly and work with realtors. I want all of my exhibits for my purchase agreements. I don't want you to type those damn things, right? If I just do them to analyze it, I can call the cell here and create an automatic PDF and say, here you go, here's your exhibit. Now we're gonna buy these 100 properties. You don't need to type that up. Someone already did. Do it once, work smart. But anyway, so increased referrals, talk to everyone about these types of things. So then you'll get more sales volumes. Whatever your goals are, it makes it easier at the end of the day. And solving tricky situations. So for instance, if somebody owes more on a mortgage than their home is worth, well, I don't care. I would be willing to overpay because I'm in it for the long run. I'm not looking to sell it next year. I'm not looking to sell it in 5 years. I'm looking to hold that forever. So as long as it cash flows in the short term, that's great. You know, another example, I was just in Sedona, and this one came up because we stayed in an Airbnb and I was talking to the owner about it. Funny thing, it was built prior to 1977. You can't get financing on a mobile home. It doesn't have a permanent foundation, built prior to 1977. No place will do that. The only way to sell it is on seller financing. And lo and behold, like I asked him, I'm like, you must be on this type of agreement. He's like, yeah, how'd you know that? I'm like, well, let me know if you have any questions and I'll try and help you out. It's just solving those tricky situations is so easy when you have creative finance because it's a completely different rule book. And besides even that, I mean, I'm not even gonna touch on the fact that I usually like buying in trusts, and trust law, contract law, uniform code is different than real property law. So there's like different things even inside that. So if the creative rule book doesn't work well over here, you can peek over at this creative rule book and see how that benefits. So I usually sell my rent-to-own agreements to people on installment contract for the beneficial interest of a trust. It's a mouthful, right? Much more mouthful than rent-to-own. But it's literally the contractual agreement that we have with them. And it's just because lease options, I don't like it for the tenants so much, and land contracts, it's not beneficial for me because after 20% or 5 years, I have to foreclose on them. That's really a pain in the butt. So you don't want to do land contracts that extend into that time period. The way around it is an installment contract for the beneficial interest of a trust, because they are actually incremental owners from the very beginning, so they can have the benefit of being an owner in so many different ways. It makes even refinancing the property a lot easier for them. Again, I'm just trying to stack everything in the way that would normally be in the way and just get it just right so it's just streamlined. Make it easy for them on a rent-to-own person. It makes it easy for me at the end of the day. So you're helping everyone out in this shifted market. That's the key, right? We have to just do that. So here's a little bit of, I wanted to give something of what would be a flag that says this is a seller that's just like, ooh, a good situation for a creative finance. One, if they want to maximize their profit for whatever reason, we can pay the highest, so that's the way to do it. If they owe more than their home would sell for, again, we can handle that, whether it's one mortgage, two mortgages, whatever the case may be. A few times that we can't, because they're all getting interest rates that are from where we once were. So it's like having that time machine, and it's different. So when everyone's looking through the lens of, oh, what's the rate right now? I don't care what that is. I'm not using it. It's bad, right? I'm looking at what's the rate of the person's specific mortgage that's in there. What's their pity payment? If they're in foreclosure, pre-foreclosure, that's a great way. I mean, there's many times where we would save them from that, whether it's just catching them up real quick and buying their home and taking over their mortgage at that point. But some of the times these people, they just stick their head in the sand and they don't do anything till the last minute, because we all don't do anything until the last minute, right? We never wait till the last minute to do things in this world, right? Again, mindset shift that we're all working on. If they need to sell fast, or they want to sell fast, but for a lot of different reasons, we can buy fast. If they want to minimize those taxes, if they want to avoid all of those appraisals, inspections, financing, things like that, for whatever reason I've mentioned or whatever new reason comes up, if they want to avoid it, we don't need to do one. We just consider those things. Yeah, we might still look at the property, because we're going to know. I mean, I might not look at it. I might send someone to look at it with my criteria and my checklist and everything, but I need to know what I'm getting into, and I need to know my plan of attack for mitigating those issues and fixing things over time. And like I said, if they owe back taxes, sure, all of these things. And if it's any of these combined, I mean, there's just more motivation and more possibility for me to help out. If they want that flexibility to move, I don't care most of the time. Yeah, I've got a construction machine to kind of keep full, but I love buying properties that don't need work. So please don't just always think investors need properties that need work. Please do not think that. No, I love properties. Right now is the time for me to buy properties that don't need work. So I've actually been paring down my construction team and because I don't need them. It's not the bird time of the year anymore. It's just a different time. Or if they want to get that secured return on their money, because where the heck else are they going to do that? Go talk to the banker. They get so excited when they can offer 0.5% on your money. They get so, I love when I go in there and I get pitched. They're like, oh, we've got this notice. We do have to, I want to share this with you that we're up to 0.75% now. Like, you might want to think about that in a money market account. I'm like, okay, thank you, but I'm good. You sure? I'm like, thank you. But and it's secured by that real asset at the end of the day. You know, everything is tied right back to the property. and it can help protect them. It's one of the questions also that comes up is, what if nobody pays on their mortgage at the end of the day? Whether it's the seller financing option or the subject to the existing mortgage, what happens if an unsavory person, or even someone who gets into a bad spot for whatever reason, over leverages themselves, can't make those payments? Does it hurt them? We put things in place, I put things in place so that there's a performance deed that if I don't perform and pay on that, it goes right back to them. And if I've already fixed it up, well, gosh, then they've got even a better situation than they were at before. But obviously that's not the name of the game. That's not what I'm trying to do, but it's there because it's a question that comes up. And honestly, if I was selling it to someone, which, by the way, I'm selling some of my properties right now, seller financed. And so I'm not just like blowing smoke and saying, oh, everyone else should do this, but not me. I want my cat. No, it's literally the best thing to do right now for all of those different reasons that I'm talking about, maximizing your profit on it. Because a couple of years ago, everyone was paying tons of money for these properties. I was so surprised they're paying so much for a duplex of mine or something. I'm like, yeah, you can have this terrible property. And I would just flick off those ones in those bad areas. And you're like, oh, you're gonna pay that for it? And I loved it because I always use a realtor when I sell because of so many different reasons. But the first one is just give me the valuation of what you think the market will bear on this property, because I have my own predisposition of how much I hate these tenants and how much work and annoyance this property is. Give me your objective opinion on that. I was blown away when they gave me that and we actually received it at the end of the day. So it's wonderful. But now is different. Now people are not doing that. I wish there was a property that I have on the market that is unsavory area, unsavory tenants, and we started it out, but it's just a buy it however you can, and it turns out that no, that's not going to work. So very quickly I'm just shifting. I'm like, here, seller finance, come on everybody, come on. I know there's plenty that are out there. If you put it in a listing, then people will search it in a listing, and then you can get that information out there a little bit more. So I wanted to also leave you with what a typical offer might look like, because this is a critical piece of all of that. So if it's a subject to, we're going to assume those back taxes take over the mortgage payments. Typically, if it's a seller financing deal, right now my buy box is 0 to 10% down. I mean, a normal conventional financing, you would put 20%, 25% down. So when somebody asks for that, it's like, well, that's no different than a typical one. And so it's not really in alignment with what I'm doing. And I know that there's plenty of people out there that understand this and that it works for them, where 0 to 10% down, that's great. That's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And I don't necessarily want a balloon on there. I wouldn't mind if I just paid this seller financing into perpetuity, into 30 years, if it's amortized over 30 years, or if it's just straight equity payments on something until it's paid down. There's so many different ways of doing it. But if for some reason they're afraid or they want to cash out eventually, like I was saying, if they're just willing to ride the wave with me until the Fed dips down and makes the interest rate normal for an investor to buy again, favorable, I guess, then I'm willing to do that. I'd prefer if it was 10 years. Again, I don't like to gamble. It'll definitely be something that happens in 10 years. 7 years, okay. 5 years is just my minimum, because I'm a firm believer that in 3 to 5 years, there's going to be some type of liquidity event where we can either sell it, we can refinance it, do something like that, and I can exit if I needed to exit on all of that. So that's really the minimum time frame. And when I see people with shorter ones, it's just they're not really understanding what needs to happen. Because for instance, it might happen in 3 years, but what if we go to war with Russia? We're going to be in a depression, and it's going to extend even further. I'm not taking those risks on. I don't want that. I don't want to set them up for failure. I don't want to set a seller up to have something bad happen. Knowing all of that, I'm going to have that conversation up front, and I'm going to present these are the options. This is just This is my strict criteria. That is my buy box. So it's right now my buy box is creative financing 0 to 10% down in Ohio, Arizona, and Florida. Because I'm sick of the cold. Lease options. So typically, there's a rental rate plus some type, that option has some type of duration to it. Maybe the option is good for 3 years, up to 10 years, whatever. It's a little more variable. I usually lean towards the top ones, but I wanted to mention this to you guys as well because it is out there. And then again, just for clarity, that joint venturing, that's where you're profiting and then you're sharing that at the end at the sale. So in the end, I'm just gonna say, meet your goals in 2023 by helping others meet their goals.
Thank you.
That's all I got, guys.
Thank you for doing that.
You watching that there aside?
Yeah, well, I didn't wanna, I saw that the angle there, I didn't know if I was gonna be saying.
Famous.
Gotcha.
Famous.
Oh my gosh.
Can I tell I'll tell you guys a real creative financing solution that I had to do that came on my plate that was, that started traditionally as far as the financing goes. Because has anybody, you guys are new, or yes, have you done a creative financing deal before?
The wholesaler with the Michael.
But have you closed one?
No.
Okay.
Oh. Okay.
So, I've done several, but I've got one that
Would
is
you
under
share it,
contract now,
Mm.
and it's a 16-unit apartment building. To make a long story short, it was $1.4 million. It went down to $1.3 million. For a variety of reasons, the buyer was going to be a bit short due to a circumstance coming up that he's going to be potentially buying a business, and so he was like, if we can get to $1.2 million and have the seller carry back $100,000. I know it's only $20,000 because he was going to put the 20% down. I know it's only $20,000. In the scheme of things, he's putting down several $100,000. So in the scheme of things, the $20,000 is not a lot of money, but he needs as much cash as he has if he decides to execute the purchase on this business and he wants to buy the apartment complex and the business. He won't know that until probably June or July because he's in an NDA period now. He's going through the due diligence on the business, so we won't really know what that looks like. We're supposed to close in the next 2 weeks on the apartment building. Kind of fell in his lap in the meantime. So the seller is going to carry $100,000 second, and they're going to charge him interest only, 8%, with a balloon payment 36 months on the $100,000. And so there's a traditional sale that had to be converted into some sort of creative financing, and I'm getting a $26,000 commission check out of it. So, everything he's saying is real, and it happens.
Yeah.
And not just in a 4-letter wholesaler word, like
Right.
normal real estate deals.
Do you guys say that too, or is that repeating what I
Well, I
said?
did not have a good
No,
experience.
I heard you, but it is.
Yeah,
but
okay. I didn't know if you say that behind wholesalers' backs too.
No, but I've been around the block.
I don't
So,
know
Yeah,
his experience,
yeah.
and I'm
Yeah,
gonna
for
wholesaler's
sure.
experience.
Yeah.
That I read.
but wholesaling. So through October, November, wholesaler reached out to me and said that they have a building in Stowe. Again, to make a long story short, I ended up contacting a client of mine who had looked at it. He bought it direct, so I wasn't involved in the real estate agency side of things in terms of it was basically a for sale under contract between the buyer and the seller. And I represented, the buyer's a client of mine. In this deal, I didn't represent him, but the wholesaler agreed to pay another LLC that I own to keep it out of my agency a $5,000 finder fee to put the deal together. And so now my client, who's a longtime client, has this 6-unit in Stowe, and he's getting about $5,000 a month in income right now, which is good in the winter time right now. He's got some other projects, so he's not sure what he wants to do with it. My guess is just based on my communication with him that he'll let me list it in the summertime. And so I'll list it, I'll sell it, I'll get probably $17,000 or $18,000 fee on that. He'll make about $80,000 or $90,000 because he bought it from wholesale out of a trust. So that's just in the last 4.5 or 5 months. It's 2 deals that have to do with either creative financing or some sort of a wholesale type of a strategy. So if you talk to other agents who haven't ever done any of this, they're gonna think that it's stuff you see on the internet. It's not real. It's too hard. But just in 4 months, it's 2 deals that if you combine the current commission income that I can make off it plus the potential future income, it's huge. So anyway, I wanted to like validate from a realtor side of things, like a non-investor side of things, that this is real, and the market that we're coming into is going to be this way for the next 24 to 36 months at least, and that's assuming that nothing weird happens. So anyway, it's all real and valid stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And I'm glad that things are happening now, because they will be happening more. Like, the good thing is that this is right at the beginning.
Correct. We're not even like at the beginning. Like you're talking about it because you know it.
It's definitely different.
Well,
realtors don't think it happens yet, but like, right? I've been shifting in the last 4 months.
Correct.
Hard, but it's been since July. All of a sudden, it's like, oh gosh,
Well,
everything is different.
The order is this: the investors and the wholesalers and the people that are front of line to this world specifically in their life. It's been happening since the fall. Okay, for us that are realtors that are in it. So I live kind of 2 lives. There's, as you know, I'm kind of in that world, but then also I'm a realtor that hands the keys over a white picket fence and everything's NAR, ACAR, all that stuff. So in our world, we're starting to hear about this now. The sellers, the non-investor buyers and the true sellers and buyers, this will hit them like right in the teeth in the summertime. Like this is going to be like oh wait.
We've waited all this time.
Correct.
What's going on?
Correct.
The realtor doesn't know because they don't have the information of what else to do.
Correct.
They finally heard something like, maybe I should try this thing that's all over the internet. I don't know, right? But like, get ahead of that. Don't convey that information like that to your sellers. Come from a place of an authority and knowledge, and again, empathy. Because if you can understand everything, you can empathize with them and then just mesh their goals with what we need from an investor side of it, or even like if you're going to be the investor, understand that there's going to be rent-to-own buyers that are out there. So you could connect them like that. It could be a little bit harder because working with rent-to-own people is just a different type of machine. So if you want to move fast, investors can move fast. If you want to make it harder, but try and do something yourself in the middle of all of that with rent-to-own, I've done plenty of them. And it's the most amount of hugs I get from men in the world is when I'm literally helping them get into a house that they wouldn't have been able to otherwise, because they can feel respected again because they're providing for their family when they couldn't. They're getting into a house when they couldn't. Gosh, my title company came to me when I was first starting out and said, hey, you're doing all this funny stuff. We've got this guy here and he can't qualify because he just had this event, bankruptcy, whatever, everything happened, his credit is destroyed. You think you can help him out? I said, let me try, right? Lo and behold, this title closer is now my best friend, and he's the one who, on his front porch, I was buying a house a week and signing for it. And if the schedule said it was going to close on a Wednesday, I'd say, no, title company, can you please just push that to Friday? Because I would get Leinenkugels, a 6-pack of them, because he loved Leinenkugels, and we'd just sit there, and I'd even have a remote closer come from another title company if I was selling something, and they would go to his front porch, because that's where I was going to be. And it's helping him out, and then when everything was good with the market, 3 years ago, he ended up buying the house. And so now he owns that, but he was moving out from a 2-bedroom with tons of kids because he was dating this woman that he was going to marry, moving into this home that I got creatively in Cuyahoga Falls, which was huge. And so it had tons of room. It's exactly what he needed. Now he's learning how to do things like put up a light and he doesn't know how to do anything normally. But it's just, he's a true homeowner where he's got all that love for this house. And he's one of my best friends, and it's humbling. I take it with a lot of heavy love that he wouldn't have been able to get that without me. His whole life was changed. The life of his families are changed because of that, and that makes me feel awesome. So when you can empathize and you can solve those tricky situations that come up, they might not be as easy and vanilla, but this is the time. This is the way to make it happen. And it's another tool in your tool belt. And if you want to work with investors, they might not know this because I educate investors all the time on this. So just being a real estate investor doesn't mean that they understand creative finance any more than you do. In fact, I would say now you understand it a lot better than a lot of them.
Yeah, and the perception, again, I'm coming from a place of where I have seen what the perception is, so I'm not saying it's what it is in this room with you guys, but I would say that the majority of time, the creative financing options tend to, you would tend to think that it's the like lower socioeconomic class. Yes, those things happen in the example he gave, where you're helping somebody that might not have an option otherwise. But when you talk, if I'm in a room of wealthy people, they have a huge interest in talking about selling their real estate in the creative financing world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, if you get a phone call that says, hey, I'm interested in looking at that property, but I'm curious as to the term, if they're open to any other terms. Like, don't automatically assume it's because they can't get a loan, or that, or there's like the perception and the reality. The perception is that you would need to do one of these strategies because they're a loser buyer that can't do anything. In
Right.
reality,
Or they're 1099.
or right.
Right.
Exactly. Right.
They can bank, but
Right.
they can't get a mortgage.
Correct. They're yeah, and I had a situation. So I got licensed in 07, 08. The market crashed that summer of 08. It was the professor of some sort of IT something or other at Kent State was my buyer client, and he was buying a house in Pamby Farms in Stowe on the golf course, and the seller was moving out, and we had a snag because the house he was going to buy, which was going to cause an issue with us closing on this house, he wasn't able to get qualified by his correspondent lender. Correspondent lender would be like Fairway, Cross Country, etc. So because he had sold a business for like $6 million the previous year, but they, for IRS purposes, for tax, they rolled over losses. So he showed a loss. So they said, well, you didn't make any money, so we can't give you a loan. And so I got involved, not because I was a super experienced real estate agent, but I had been in the investing side of things for like 4 years leading up to that. I thought, well, so I called the other agent. I said, let me have him talk to the president of the bank at the time, was North Akron Savings. They kind of lend like it's 1950s, handshake, let's sit down, have a conversation. They looked at it and goes, oh, wait a minute, it's because it was a tax planning strategy to show a loss. He didn't actually lose the money. He's got millions of dollars in other these mutual funds. We'll do the loan on that other house. So yeah, that wasn't a creative strategy like this, but just being in that space of, wait a minute, yeah, it was a loss, but it's not a real loss. So it's the thinking creative as to, but you have to be in that space. And if you're not, I'm telling you right now, if you're not going to absorb this kind of stuff over the next couple of years, I'm not saying you won't make it in the business, but there is going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars in commissions that you're going to leave on the table because of that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Again, remember the NFL, former NFL player that had the tree house and the 50 acres in Florida. His problem is tax and what to do with the money afterwards.
Like a 1031, he want to do a 1031.
Yeah, but you have to want to be in real estate.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. So even if he does a 1031, you have to take an NFL player that says, I know you want to sell this piece of real estate. Let's take the money and go do another piece of real estate, but it's got to be the same or larger. And he's going, I don't want to own I don't know the story, but like, I don't
even know what the real is
Right.
around it. But yeah, he might not want to be in. That's not his area of expertise.
Right.
It was football.
But everybody likes to have income. So you can say, I'll tell you what, I'll give you $250 down at 6%, or you can do a sliding scale. I mean, there's tons of
ways, right?
When I took principles and practices, when I got my license, the teacher at Hondros, he said, let me ask you guys a question. And I had known a little bit about this because of my investing side of things before I got my license. And I was like, I think I know where he's going with this. He said, if I had a house that was worth $100,000, and we all knew it was worth $100,000, and I told you that I would sell it to you for $200,000, would you make that deal? And everybody was like, that's ridiculous. No. He said, wait a minute.
I can overpay. I tell people that all the time. I say I could pay double for your house. Yeah. That's something that'll just be like, shut up.
Yeah, and so everybody says, no. And I sat in the back and I thought, I know where he's going with this. And he said, wait a minute, you're saying no, why? And everybody says, well, because it's only worth $100. He goes, well, I haven't told you the terms yet.
Right.
terms are everything. So, but what if it was $200,000, but you didn't have to pay me for 30 years, and you didn't have to pay me interest or any payments until the note was due? And you go, oh, wait a minute. Well, I guess it's probably going to be worth more than 230 years, right? So the point is the creative word and the creative financing literally opens up an infinite amount of options.
And it scares people.
It sounds very fun. It sounds very fun.
Well, yeah. To some people, it
Some.
can be like, oh, it's creative. It's like, oh, that means you're not going to be straight with me.
Right, or it's illegal somehow.
Or
Like,
it's all
Like
legal
you're tricky,
somehow.
like you're tricky, being
Right.
tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even just how like assignments, you talk to different title companies and some of them will say it's illegal. No. They don't have the correct underwriters that will sign
they
and
will do
ensure that type
simultaneous
of transaction.
processing, yeah.
Whether it's that, whether it's this other one, yeah. But so same example, overpay for a property, pay 200% of what it's worth right now for a property. If I can pay you just minimal payment so that it cash flows until that 200% is paid off,
Right.
I'll pay that forever. As long as it's cash flowing, I'm gonna hold, my game is to hold on to it forever. That's where you'll see different goals create different strategies in people, and it'll show. Wholesalers, they're just like usually in it for the short buck, and so they don't usually absorb this information very much until they have to, which is kind of maybe summer. You know,
Right,
it's
yeah.
the same thing. They're going to be very slow. Maybe they don't, they have a W-2 job. They're trying to get into real estate, or they just don't have that desire to always learn and grow. And it can be a lot because creative just opens up everything. Like when you start to hear us say there's so many different ways that you can structure it. I've told you the outlines, but under that, there's just like footnote of all the different situations. So whenever you guys come across anything that you think would work, I'd love to look at it with you guys because like I say, Ohio is one of the places I'm buying, so.
Well, and the other thing too, use this as an advantage. This is part of like the fellow thing that we'll talk about later, but
I was gonna bring that up too.
in the platform, oh, you were thank you.
No, I'm sorry. I'm really excited.
I'm joking.
You know, I can't be quiet. I'm like having a really hard time over here.
In the platform, we have the ability to present our sellers with multiple cash offers, right? So let's say that you get to know Zach and you think it's probably not in his wheelhouse, but maybe it is because if it's creative, maybe he'll have an interest. You could get a offer that's a cash offer that maybe is awful to the client and he doesn't care because if he gets it, great. If not, it is what it is. But from the consumer side of things, as a realtor, it gets our foot in the door having a conversation with the seller. So the more people that you know, like Zach, like I have two people in my world that I use all the time that I can legitimately say to either apartment complex owners or landowners, I have a buyer that will buy this at a premium. I just need to talk to you. Because I don't know if they'll buy that one, right? But they might if it works out. So so having someone like Zach in your space, aside from the creative aspect of things, just from the consumer side of things, can say, I have an option. I might have a buyer for this.
And it gives them at least options. Who the heck doesn't like an option? Because if I have one option, then that's it. But if I can see that compared to a couple other ones, you'll be able to know what I don't want to do, and you can have a better conversation and understand their needs and their goals, and you can ask them why at that point. So it's great. That's why usually I'll do an LOI with a few different options. I'll give them a cash option, sure. I'll give them a terms option and another terms option because I want them to pick one of those at the end of the day. But yeah, I can pay 50 cents on the dollar. I'll do something with it, you know. And for some people,
if
they'll
you guys,
use that.
this is the last thing I'll say, then I'll let you guys do whatever. But if you guys are going to talk about prospecting for potential creative financing options, it would be generally it's on like a generational type of property. So, for instance, apartment complexes. You could do it with commercial buildings like this, but in our world that you would be most, or that you would get more familiar with, would be the residential apartment complexes. You got a guy that was maybe 40 years old. He had something built in the 70s, a 17 unit, and now he's 75, and he's like, well, here's the problem. If I sell this today, I'm going to get kicked in the teeth with income tax or with the capital gain tax. You know,
Depreciation recapture.
Right.
I was literally having this conversation with someone on Wednesday about it.
all-
Old people. He wanted to die with the buildings
That's the
because
thing.
it was
So-
better for his family
family.
if he did that.
So I'll tell you what, I'll give you so on $1 million purchase, I'll give you $100,000 down, or I'll find someone that's $100,000, we'll pay your kids and grandkids 8% over the next 36 years, or whatever that looks like. And all of a sudden, what to 99 out of 100 sellers is a terrible option in the sense that it doesn't hit their goal. This guy goes, you know what? That means that I'm dead. The government doesn't get my taxes, and my family gets income. And if you lose it, we'll foreclose on it and get the building back again. Sure, sign me up.
Or if I put it in place, you don't have to foreclose because there's a performance deed, so
Right.
it just goes right through because I empathize with them because then I'm not gonna fail on that. I'm not gonna,
Right.
you know, because I've got other things that are going on too, and I know how to underwrite it well. Yeah, it's all those unique situations, and they're
You just
all
find out
out
their
there.
why. You just start with their why.
Yeah. What are they gonna do with the money?
Mm-hmm.
Why are they selling? What do they
And I
do?
know I said it's the last thing. This will be the last thing because this has to do
We're
with
learning.
the actual real estate side of things, with the realtor side of things. So, Sarah, what's the first when I go to a listing appointment and I sit down? What's the first question I ask them?
Why am I here?
Why? And they always chuckle and look at each other. Then they look at me and they go, "Well, to list the house." And I go, "No. I know why I'm here, but why am I here?" And then they vomit all of their motivation on me so that I can, they don't know this, but when they're telling this to me, I'm storing the real whys in there. So when I'm coming up with, when I have to overcome objections on maybe the pricing or timing or updates that they should do to the house, if they want to get the amount of money that they think that it's worth, et cetera, I can always go back to the why. And so whether it's 123 Oak Street, single family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, typical seller, why as a realtor in our appointment to try to get that listing, or Uncle Bob, who knows that you're a real estate agent, has no idea if you know what you're doing in terms of multifamily apartment complexes, has a friend of a friend that is interested in selling his 18 unit on Wilbith, would you be interested in looking at it? Great. And you're asking the same question, why? Well, the problem is, at some point I gotta sell it. I've been kicking around for 10 years, but I don't wanna pay the freaking government. You know how these conversations go. Great, well, would you be open to selling it if you had creative financing? I don't know, sure, yeah, let's talk about it. Make 100 calls to people with money, you'll get 25 people that say, let's have a conversation to see if we can buy the asset.
Yeah.
And not cash, by the way, one of these options.
Yeah.
And it works for the seller. So,
Yeah.
to your point, the why, almost all the creative financing pieces start and end with a specific unique why for their circumstances. So if you have, I don't know the percentage, but you might have, let's say 99 or 95% or 90% of our traditional real estate sales are traditional real estate sales. And they have all their whys. They had a baby, they got a divorce, et cetera, et cetera. These are generally very unique and also
Financial.
high pressure, either high pressure in the sense that they don't have to sell, but they're going to lose a bunch of money to taxes and they don't want that to happen, or high pressure, shoot, we're behind to the government, we owe taxes, we just lost our business partner, and now we got a lien on our house, we'd like to pay that off. I've seen people sell at, to his point, but the opposite, so where he'll pay over, I've seen people say, I'll tell you what, if you just give me the 30 grand, because I got a lien, I got to get off my house, I know it's worth 100, if you give me the 30 today, I'm out. Right? So maybe that's not a creative financing, but you started the conversation because you're an investor or you know an investor and you're looking at this. So again, to your point, there's an infinite amount of options that comes into play. And I have made a lot, and I don't say this arrogantly, I'm just telling you, like, as a regular real estate agent, not as a buyer or a seller, as an agent, I have made hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years because of the creative financing piece.
And it's usually in different times.
Correct. Then the COVID
Of the cycle.
Right, yeah.
Of the whole real estate
Correct,
cycle.
correct,
Yeah. So it's literally right now. You would not do this a year from now because why? You'd put it on the market, everyone's gonna jump for it. Money is cheap. You wouldn't do it back then.
Yeah.
You'd have to find a much more specific type of niche situation, and it might be those property owners that are trying to get rid of those problem of paying the taxes, and so they want to pass that along. That's always there. Death and taxes, right? So those are always good ones. So I love talking to property owners at the end of the day. But now, because of interest rates, it's just different.
Do you have to go?
Yeah, what is it, the 15? Yeah.
Okay, while you're doing that,
Yeah. Okay.
these.
Sorry, I just.
No, you're great. No, that's
It's all
wonderful.
part- no,
It's
all
super
part of it.
wonderful.
I'm just trying to give.
And I'll
We'll
email
have
you
you
stuff.
back in a part
I'll
two.
email you this afterwards. Sure.
That's
Hit me
one
up
of
with all your
the
questions.
well that's what I'm wondering, like
where do we look for more info, for this kind of stuff? Like, do you have a favorite news source, or is there a favorite info source that you use that we can use as well, like a public info source?
Yeah,
Or can we
so-
reach out to you, like?
So 1000% you can reach out to me. And I'm going to be putting a lot of information out there about this specifically to teach people. But I'll give you my mentor, and like I said, the best one that I found here with the group is Pace Morby. He is, for real estate investors, I would not find anybody better. He breaks it down so easily. He is all over YouTube. His main thing is Instagram. But you look on YouTube and you could do YouTube University for days. The problem, I mean, he even records
I get overwhelmed.
like, oh no, that's
Yeah.
that's the thing. But you can search it for whatever
Yeah.
you're looking for. But he puts out right now in our group about 50 hours of content a week with everyone in his team. But he will be on Zooms for like 4-hour Zooms or short ones for him, because he just loves pulling everyone on there, and he does them all live, and he just maxes out the 5,000 people that can go into certain things and pushes it to everywhere. Pace Morby is really good.
Cool.
And the fact that he's doing it from the heart, I truly feel that he's coming from the heart.
This is your
on it.
mentor?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, it's part of the group. And so literally, they have this elephant challenge every month. Search for that because it's free. Last month and this coming month, it's going to be about multifamily. So how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? And so with everybody's help, we can take down this elephant that is creative finance and real estate investing even, and getting all that knowledge of that. So he breaks things down in a way where you can just slowly, incrementally take this knowledge in and directly apply it. So we'll start up groups in Facebook, like, okay, he'll get off the live and be like, all right, go into this. It's the Creative Financing with Pace Morby is the Facebook group.
Okay.
It's the free one. There's about 70,000 people in it. And he'll say, go in there and find your teams. And so we've got people like me that'll just say, okay, I'm a leader for this area. And last time it was Arizona. Right? I can do this anywhere. I just happen to come back from Sedona. I'm like, I really want a property in Sedona. Like one of the places I want to live. So, yeah, and we ended up searching things and talking to the property owner out of nowhere and found an 8-unit in Sedona. And I actually found it by talking to this property owner, and it wasn't actually me. It was a new person who never got into anything before. It's like, here's the script, this is what you have to do. We all taught people to manually skip trace, how to look up people's information. If you don't know how to do that, that's kind of fun too. It's creepy fun. But it's all out there, public information for all of that, besides doing the different ways of skip tracing. But so she talked to this owner. He said, no, I don't want to sell, but man, the property next to me, it needs a lot of work. I wish someone would talk to them and fix it up and make my property worth more. So we just went on Google Maps, look at the next property, skip trace that owner, find them. They were in California, called them up, talked to them about it. And she's like, yeah, I would be open to this. I'm like, okay, let's talk about that, right? And it happens all the time, but it's a wonderful community where people are just giving first. It's gonna be an outpouring of information about creative finance, and that is his gig. There's other people that do wholesaling, there's other people that do private money lending and all these different things, how to be a good landlord. His gig is creative finance, and he's like, I can do this forever, talk about it, and it's always going to be new.
Morby?
Oh yeah, yeah. Are
I
you
didn't
on
find him yet.
Facebook?
I just but yeah.
Creative Financing with Pace Morby.
Fun.
I sniffed him out. I guess I did.
You said
Yeah, it's right there, your hands up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys have burning questions?
Burns.
Get a group photo.